If you have someone that's unforgettable, then the month of February is a terrific time to remember that person. We have the holiday of Valentine's. And what Valentine's is really about is to tell someone that you love them and show that in some way. You can do it with cards. You can certainly do it with taking them to an event or a dinner. You can do it with candy. I personally think that you should show them you love them with flowers, especially if you know that person loves flowers. So let's look at some of the ideas. I brought some kind of fun things today, and some little things and some big things. This is a little pink jar, and just a very simple little container. This would be a great thing to give to maybe a daughter or a granddaughter. I don't know that the young boys would like the blue or the pink so much, maybe blue, but pink and red are certainly the traditional colors of the holiday, and red is the dominant color. Pink is really just a shade of the red, a watered down red, if you will. I'm going to start off with a little bit of, this is Italian ruscus, one of my favorite greens. It's got great lasting life to it. Just going to tuck a few little stems of it down in. And I thought, since this is pink, maybe we should start with some carnations and clean up a carnation or two. When you cut a flower this short, they tend to have great vase life because it's a very short distance from the water source to the blossom, and so they will bloom out for a long time. And because of scale on this, I want to take a smaller blossom. This is a little a variety of chrysanthemum, and I'm not sure that I know that I've ever known its name, a little white button-like flower. You can tuck a little bit of that in. I'm going to get them kind of even and cut them off and then just drop them down in. And then I may take a sprig or two. This blossom is called Genestra, and it is a blooming locust, if you will. For those of you who how wonderful, I guess they're black locusts. I get that backwards all the time. But when they bloom, how sweet they are. They perfume the whole neighborhood. This has much of that same quality. So let's just add a little spike of that to it. That'll add a little bit of fragrance. And we have a very simple little Valentine. If we had a little bit of ribbon, we could tie some ribbon around the vase. We could do just a bit of color on it if you wanted. You can also take, like, here's a little pick, and I'm going to take one of these little hearts and cut it off, maybe just a little bit shorter. I'm going to take it and just set it right in the center, and so we've got a little Valentine's. Like I said, this would be great for a daughter, for a granddaughter, a grandchild. And so that's an idea that's very easy, very simple. Let's move on and look. You know, flowers to me, generally when I think of them, I'm thinking of fresh flowers, but it could be a blooming plant. We've got this great little begonia plant, and they've come in very nice. They're very full. I brought a little bit of Spanish moss. Most of the time I use aspen moss. I like it because it doesn't have some of the problems with Spanish moss, but my suppliers are out of it right now, so I'm using traditional Spanish moss, and I'm just going to bring some up around the plant. We're just going to tuck it down in, and we've got a very quick, very easy way to make a gift. Again, we could embellish it with ribbons. We could take the remainder of these picks. We're going to clip this. I got this pick, and we'll see if we can get this on camera. the whole thing. And it's got this onion grass. It's got the hearts in the center. And I liked the combination of pieces, but I didn't like the way this was put together. So we're going to take it. I'm going to cut the hearts out of it and trim off. Since I've trimmed one of those off, go ahead and trim that spot just a little. Let's come here in front of the begonia. And there's a leaf that's gotten torn with shipment. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can find the soil. Tuck those down. Spread these hearts a little. Then I want to take the onion grass. Maybe I'll bring that up a little higher behind it. Now, if you remember with this onion grass, it's very easy to take your thumbnail, pinch it, and then you just pull it off. No, that's not what I was trying to show you. We'll try that again. You take your thumbnail and you just run it along the back side, and that material, that vinyl, curls nicely. And I think that adds a nice bit of character to it. So I'm going to do that quickly. If you get too quick, you'll pull the ends off. So you want to be lighter as you get out to the ends, but it adds a little extra character to it, a little more personality, if you will. Now I'm going to come in on the back side, and I'm doing this really for two reasons. I wanted to have a little extra behind it, and that also, if you saw me do that, it helped prop the begonia plant up. Sometimes when they've got these big heavy bloom heads like this, they really need to have a little extra to hold them up. So that helps do that. A rather simple and quick idea. Clean up my mess just a moment. Some fun containers. Valentine's has really some terrific containers. Let me see if I can get this one up out of my spot. This one they call a tulip vase. And I thought, okay, I can do tulips in that. And so I brought red tulips. Tulips are starting to really come in very nicely at this time of year. Starting to see a lot of them on the market. And that should mean they get more affordable. And tulips are probably one of the easiest blossoms to work with. Just simply take them, clip them. I'm taking these big leaves, I'm cutting it above that and cleaning up the stem a little bit. Going to drop them in. This vase is very narrow. If we can get a side view of it, I don't know that that'll show up, but it's about 1.5 inches wide. And so you have a very narrow, very regimented area that you're putting your blossoms into. And that way it doesn't take a lot of blossom to fill. This would make a very good centerpiece vase, I think. Would work very well if you've got a table and you've got a lot of dishes on the table and don't want to use a lot of room for a centerpiece. This would be a great idea for it. I'm just going to tuck those in, and as I'm cutting them, that smell of fresh tulips is greeting me, and that's a harbinger of spring. I don't know about you, but I am really ready to see spring. And so when the tulips and the daffodils and all those sorts of things start to come in, I really start to think spring and know that it will happen sooner or later. It hasn't failed to come yet, so I have faith that it will. I'm going to fill in a little bit more, and I'm taking some plumosa because it's a very soft greenery. And I'm just going to pluck a little of it off that would be under the water and pick up my tulips and tuck this in along. Red is sometimes thought of as a fairly masculine color. If colors are assigned gender, then red would definitely be more to the masculine side, where pinks are more feminine. And so I'm taking this, and by adding this soft texture, I think it adds kind of a feminine touch to it. cut this piece. A lot of arranging is just making the proper cut, knowing where to make that cut. And I don't know that there's really any way to learn that except just do it. And you will make mistakes, and that's okay. You can make a mistake and you can move on. It's not, in general, life and death. If you cut it too short, you just use a shorter vase. It's very simple. So here we've got a very soft, very wispy field. We might go back and put maybe a little bit, I know what I brought that would be great in here. This is a great fun blossom, and I think I've shown these once before perhaps. They have been fairly slow to come into our local market. They sell it as a green trick carnation, and while I will agree that it is a dianthus, I'm not sure it's really a carnation as such. I would classify it more as a dianthus. The leaf structure reminds me of Sweet William more than carnation. But it's a great textural element, adds a lot of fun to any arrangement. It also has a great vase life. I had these at home and had them for a month plus. And so green is one of those colors that really keeps coming on more and more. We see more of it in the market. And so that adds that green down in. Again, lots of ways to embellish. If we had little jewels, we could go ahead and tuck some jewels down in and just do a fun little vase that way. Again, on the side profile, it's not a very wide container, so this would work well in the center of a small table. I also brought this great container, and I know that's going to make some noise, so I'll try to stop and talk a little bit about it. This container has a photo album wrapped around it that you can either leave there or you can take off and use somewhere else. I thought that was kind of a fun double purpose. Now, I'll show you my mechanics. In the center of this, I have a chunk of foam, and because my container was short that it's in, I went ahead and put it in a corsage bag. Could use any sort of plastic bag, a cellophane. Go ahead and add a little bit of water down in there. And now I'll be noisy for just a moment. We'll cut that off. Let's take some of this ruscus that we started working with. Like I said, Italian ruscus has incredible vase life. And I really love it as a green. It's very, very glossy. It's got those little pointed leaves, and it just works very nicely for a number of things. And maybe I'll pull my little ribbon to the center. This would be very easy to take a half a dozen roses, and I brought this great red rose. It's called Sexy Red, and I hadn't cleaned it before I brought it, and it has monster thorns on it. Sometimes roses have much bigger thorns, one variety over the other, and this one is truly well guarded on these stems. You want to be very careful when you clean, when you pull along the stem, that you clip just the thorn itself off, that you don't gouge into the bark. Anytime that you gouge in, you can have a spot where bacteria can get in, you can have some damage, and you don't really want to do that. The same goes for your skin, that you don't want to be poking in your skin. That's your protective barrier as well, so you want to try not to damage it any more than you have to. I'm going to do a trio. I'm going to come in. I have maybe some of these nice white alstroemeria. Since we've got a little white down here on the container, we can pull some white up and into this arrangement as well. There are a lot of legends about Valentine's, and you've probably heard all of them, or most of them, about Saint Valentine being the one that originated the holiday, and of course the start of Valentine cards, the turn of the last century. And you want to make sure when you're poking in, if you've used this sort of mechanic, that liner, that you keep your stems inside the liner. I don't know that this container is watertight, so that's why I've done that. And maybe I will take just a few stem of these miniature carnations. And add that second shade in there. Valentine's this year falls on a Sunday, and so that's great for the individuals. As a florist, it makes it a little bit harder for us to catch people to make deliveries. On Sunday, people will be out moving about, so we probably will try to do the majority of deliveries earlier if people will let us do that. It's always great to get something at work and have everyone ooh and ah when you get fresh flowers delivered, or balloons, or any of those things. But we will be working Sunday. It just goes with the territory. It's one of the very few days, Sundays, that I would ever officially be open. We do end up working quite a little on Sundays because of demands for Monday morning. But this time, I think, I know the store will actually have to be open because of the way the holiday falls. I didn't stop and check. One of my friends said it had been 12 years since it had last fallen on Sunday because of leap year. And so it's been a while. I don't really remember it. So I think maybe just tuck another blossom or two. And another great sort of idea for Valentine's, doesn't always have to be chock full of roses. We can do some other things and have some very nice gift ideas for people. I've got a fun little vase. I thought, well, what could I do with this? I like this. It's kind of like a rose bowl. It's got the big red heart on it. So I thought, I'm going to take some lily grass, and I'm just going to wind it around. Maybe if I'm clever, I can pull it in a knot. And then I'm going to push that down into that vase. And lily grass will tolerate being underwater well, so that's partly why I've chosen this particular greenery to do that. It will withstand that for a long, long time. So we'll do it from that way as well. And this I thought would be great with maybe some of the little green hydrangea. Can cut a blossom or two of hydrangea. Fairly small, so it doesn't take a whole lot to fill it. And I'm picking the foliage off of the hydrangea. The foliage will tend to go down a little quicker. The hydrangea itself should have a very good vase life. And so I'm going to take the foliage off, going to tuck this down and in, and as you can see, that starts to fall apart a little. that's where a little bit of bind wire will be a great advantage for us. I'm going to pull these back out, going to get them at the bind point, and I might just go ahead while I've got it in my hand, and we'll find a pretty rose. Get rid of those thorns before I poke myself. And I'm going to take this rose and just wiggle it down through so that it nestles down and in. And now take my bind wire, and at this point where they all bind together, I'm going to wrap that around several times and tie it off. And so there we have, and we can just set that down in. There's a bad petal, so let's take that off. You want to take a look at your product when you're done with it and see if there is a petal. These are guard petals, and I haven't pulled them off the roses. I don't necessarily like to do that if I think they're pretty. I will leave them on because they tend to have a texture and a character that maybe we wouldn't get anywhere else. But if it's bad, you just need to take it off. Now we've got a nice rose bowl type of arrangement. I want to go ahead and take just a little sprig of curly willow, because a little bit of that adds a lot of character, pulls that on up. And get that to go in where I want it to. Do what I want, not what you want, Mr. Flower. And so we've created just kind of a fun little vase with a little bit of attitude. This branch has entirely too much attitude, so we're going to try that again. See if it'll do what I want. This pass there, maybe. So again, fun, easy, simple to do. The last thing I want to do is I want to show you a more traditional approach to Valentine's, the traditional roses. And again, we'll start with a little bit of the ruscus. I'm going to pluck some of the lower foliage off. I'm going to drop that in. I'm going to take the rest of my bear grass or lily grass and drop that down in. Maybe a little bit of plumosa. Find I had one piece that was just great, and I thought to myself, this would be very fun just to take and weave it in itself, plumosa, because it's got all the little feathery branches, pretty well catches and holds. You don't really need a lot of other mechanics with it. So let's put it down in, and then pick up our other greens and tuck them down in the center of it as well. See if I can find a shorter piece of the ruscus. This vase is, it's red, it's got a little diamond on it. It's just a really pretty little container. This is something if you want to have more of a keepsake for your Valentine. Just a really great vase. And again, try to maneuver around those thorns. Maybe I'll try another knife. That one is just, I should have sharpened it before I came tonight. For those guys out there that may have little trouble remembering exactly when Valentine's is, it's the week following Super Bowl. Thought that that was kind of a fun way to tell people it's make it easier to remember, it's the Sunday after Super Bowl. So if you can remember when Super Bowl is, count 7 days away and you're at Valentine's. And I think it behooves any of us to really take that moment, because we all get so very busy, take that moment and take a little time and show the one you love how much they mean to you. We just don't know how long our days are on the earth, and to be able to share that with your significant other, I would urge you to take the time and just be sure to do it this year. I'm going to follow up with just a little bit of this fragrant Genestra. Maybe another piece of that. And let's see where we are. I think I've kind of put it in backwards, but the beauty of it is that I can swirl it around, and there you have a more traditional sort of Valentine's. So I hope I've given you some ideas, and I hope that in closing you'll pay attention to the words of this little critter.